Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. Zhou waved his hand after reading it. The two sheets of paper burst into flames and were burnt to a crisp. These blueprints and the method of reaching the 9-leaf stage must have been the most valuable components of Luo Shirin's notes. Now that he had reached the 9-leaf stage, and he possessed the blueprints, there was no longer any need to pay attention to other matters. Is she Luo Xian or Luo Shirin? What a headache. After burning the two sheets of paper, he looked at little Yuan and Conk who were standing at the back. Conk walked over. Give me your hand. Oh. Like before, he placed 2 fingers on her wrist. The others remained silent. The other 8-leaf cultivators had seen Conk make her move earlier. She was a bona fide Red Lotus cultivator. Nan Gongwei bowed before he said, Senior Ji, I saw it with my own eyes. This young lady released red energy earlier. Is she? The others nodded in agreement. Zhou retracted his fingers after examining Conk. Just like his examination, he determined she was now in the nascent divinity tribulation realm. When he saw the puzzled expressions of the others and the way they were looking at her warily, he said clearly, she's my 10th disciple. Zhou's words were like a single pebble that gave rise to 1,000 waves. Everyone seemed frightened as they looked at each other. After Jiang Wenqi was exposed, the cultivators who were aware of it had developed a hatred for Red Lotus cultivators. Moreover, when Zhou was demonstrating to the world, an elite in the Sky Shuttle had launched a sneak attack with Red Lotus karmic fire. It was only natural that they were wary of anything red. However, it was completely out of their expectations that the young girl was Zhou's 10th disciple. Zhou continued to say, although she possesses a red lotus, she's as pure and innocent as my 9th disciple. How awkward. Senior Ji, we can understand if you say your 10th disciple is pure and innocent, but your 9th disciple is far from being pure and innocent. Any other questions? Zhou swept his gaze across everyone. With his words, he was obviously openly supporting her. His intention was clear, she was her disciple, and none of them should have any ill intention toward her. In the end, the 8-leaf cultivators could only bow and greet her. Greetings, Miss 10th. Zhou nodded, pleased. Conk, show me your avatar. Oh. Conk extended her hand. Soon enough, a red 100 Tribulations Insight avatar appeared above her palm. The avatar had 2 leaves. Those who did not know Conk from before were not surprised by this. After all, with disciples such as Zhenghai and Shangrong, there was nothing wrong if the pavilion master accepted a 2-leaf disciple. On the contrary, the people from the Evil Sky Pavilion were shocked. They knew how recent Conk had joined the pavilion. However, in just such a short time, she had already sprouted 2 leaves? Was this something achievable by humans? So, this is what the red lotus looks like. It looks just like the golden lotus, the only difference is the color. Conk retracted her avatar, clearly excited. Not bad, Zhou said, pleased. Zhu Honggong felt slightly aggrieved when he heard his master's words. He was told to get lost when he was a 4-leaf cultivator, and yet, Conk was praised just for being a 2-leaf cultivator. He felt that his master was too biased. Zhou studied the corpse and the damaged limestone floor for a moment before he said, clean this up. Understood. If there's nothing else, let's call it a day. Zhou turned around with his hands on his back and walked toward the eastern pavilion. Before he left, he paused for a moment and glanced at Yi Tianxin. Come to the eastern pavilion later. I'll personally heal you. Upon hearing this, Yi Tianxin's fingers trembled slightly. She was overwhelmed by her master's favor. She bowed immediately as she replied, yes, master. The others bowed and waited for Zhou to leave. Zhu Tianyuan looked at Zhou's retreating back. After Zhou left, he said to Zhu Honggong, son, can you plead on my behalf for your master to heal me as well? Forget it, father. Even I won't be given that treatment. Zhu Honggong muttered. Some of the other cultivators found the atmosphere awkward and left immediately. Meanwhile, In order to make his stance clear, Nan Gongwei said loudly, I'll take care of the corpse. Fengiji hurriedly chimed in, I'm great at fixing floors. Allow me. Chunan rolled his eyes before he looked up as he said, I'll check the top of the evil sky pavilion. That was a huge tremor earlier. I think some of the tiles must have been dislodged. After saying this, he flew up along the western and northern pavilions, as stealthy as a thief, as he looked for signs of damages. The other 8-leaf cultivators who remained were taken aback by this, they quickly surveyed their surroundings. Zhang Jishui and Lu Liang pointed at the barrier and said, the barrier is slightly damaged. Although I'm injured, I still have some primal chi left. I'll mend the barrier. As soon as they finished speaking, both of them took the sky. The sect master of the Tian sect, Nan Gongwei, was a recultivated 8-leaf elite. At this moment, he had dedicated himself to ridding Jiakai's corpse and rubble with strangely familiar movements. Panzhong and Zhou Jifeng stood in front and spread their hands helplessly. They were slightly stunned that they were left with nothing to do. Brother Zhou, I think our jobs had been taken for us. I can see that, I feel slightly pressured. That's right. Say, they aren't pretending to be 8-leaf cultivators, are they? Why do I feel that they're no different from commoners on the streets? I don't know if they're pretending, but there's one thing I'm sure of, if the 8-leaf cultivators are here to take over our jobs, we're in quite dire straits. Lu Zhou did not speak about the way to manifest the golden flames or his experience of breaking through the 9-leaf stage. After all, they were related to his personal secrets. He had attained the 9-leaf stage using reversal cards, after all. At this moment, he still felt as though he was dreaming. When he returned to the Eastern Pavilion, Lu Zhou called up the system dashboard to confirm it again. Remaining life, 219,003 days. 600 years of life. It was true. Merit points, 14,640. Although he was certain he was now a 9-leaf cultivator, he could still hardly stop himself from manifesting his avatar again. Whiz. A miniature avatar appeared in front of him. The golden flames surprised him again. This had exceeded his imagination of the 9-leaf stage before he had a breakthrough. The red lotus had a karmic fire, and the golden lotus had golden flames, but Jiang Wenqiu had neither. This meant that not everyone possessed this power. After admiring his avatar for half a day, a problem suddenly occurred to him. Since he was now a true blue 9-leaf cultivator, would he attract the beasts? Jiang Wenqiu had attracted the man-mans. So, who attracted Chongqi? Is anyone there? Yes. Your orders, Pavilion Master? Summon Si Wuya. Understood. At this moment, Si Wuya was stunned as well. He was rendered speechless as he watched the 8-leaf cultivators busying themselves with menial chores. He was rather taciturn compared to the others, he felt it was too much of an effort to speak up and stop them. Moreover, they were diligent in their tasks, and the evil sky pavilion did need to be cleaned up. Upon learning that his master had summoned him, he left for the eastern pavilion without wasting any time. Lu Zhou looked at Si Wuya and said, I summoned you here for 2 things. First, keep an eye on the changes in Great Yan's 9 provinces, especially the movements of the beasts. Second, I suspect there are more Red Lotus cultivators in Great Yan. Come up with a way to smoke them out. I understand, Si Wuya replied. You've been busy and have many matters to attend to recently. However, make sure you're not neglecting your cultivation, Lu Zhou said. I'll remember your words, Master. That will be all. Then, Si Wuya retreated from the room respectfully. Lu Zhou entered his meditative state. He was used to having the heavenly writing powers at his disposal. Now that he did not have his extraordinary power, he felt as though something was missing. Meanwhile, news of the evil sky pavilion's patriarch preaching to the world spread like a wildfire. Half a day passed, and the sun was setting. At this time, Yi Tianqin arrived at the eastern pavilion. Yi Tianqin requesting an audience, Master. Lu Zhou opened his eyes slowly and said, Enter. Yi Tianqin opened the door and entered the room. Perhaps, she had suffered heavier injuries during the day, she did not seem to be in a good condition. In the candlelight, she seemed paler and feebler. Coupled with her white hair, she seemed to lack vitality. Zhou could hardly heal her with the power of healing with a wide range that he had used during the day. The power was spread between too many injured people, after all. He pointed to the rush cushion 3 meters before himself and said tonelessly, "Sit." "I dare not." She did not feel worthy enough to sit across her master. "If I tell you to sit, you will sit," Zhou said with no inflection in his tone. "Understood." Yi Tianxin sat down respectfully before her master. Zhou looked at her and said, "You should have acted within your means. Do you know what your mistake was?" Yi Tianxin immediately prostrated herself and said, "I've made a mistake, I shouldn't have held you back." For a 9-leaf cultivator, indeed, an 8-leaf cultivator could be considered a burden. Zhou shook his head. He could tell that Yi Tianxin's understanding of him was still based on his host, Ji Tiandao, even though his way of doing things had changed considerably. "I'm only pointing out what you've done wrong. There's no need to be nervous or overcautious," Zhou said. Yi Tianxin raised her head slowly with a puzzled expression on her face. Ever since returning to the Evil Sky Pavilion, Yi Tianxin never had the chance to speak to her master face to face like this. Based on her memories, she had never done this as well even before she left the Evil Sky Pavilion. The fair folk had a rough fate, they were annihilated by others. She was the only survivor, and she lived a solitary and hard life while she wandered the lands like rootless duckweed. She had nowhere to go, the Evil Sky Pavilion was the only place she belonged to. Moreover, as the saying went, a master for a day, a father forever. Yi Tianxin was still keenly aware of the mistakes she had made before, so she did not dare to ask for any favor from her master. She looked at her master, who wore a calm expression on his face and remained kneeling on the rush cushion with her hands before herself as she said, "Kindly enlighten me, master." Zhou said, "I taught you the blue waves technique in the hopes that you'll be able to be like water, knowing when to advance and when to retreat. Like water, you have to know how to adapt and coexist with purities and impurities. I gave you the amorous hoop in hopes that you'll put it to good use and put an end to those who should be ended." Yi Tianxin's heart trembled slightly. Zhou continued. The monk, Fa Kong, was a 9-leaf elite who had mastered the karmic fire from the Red Lotus domain. If you weren't careful, you might not have survived. Do you understand? When she returned to the Evil Sky Pavilion from the Moonlight Woodlands, she could still withstand the prolonged battle with Lu Ge. However, against the monk, Fa Kong, who had the strength and cultivation base to kill an 8-leaf cultivator, she was just like an ant trying to uproot a tree. It was incredibly foolish. Yi Tianxin bowed and said, "I won't forget your teachings, master. I've sinned in the past, and I merely want to atone for them. Since I've decided to accept you again, I've let go of the past. If you're still stuck in the past, how are you going to improve in the future?" Yi Tianxin's body shook slightly. She did not expect her master to have such high hopes for her. After saying all this, Zhou finally arrived at the main reason he had summoned her here. "Give me your hand." "Understood." Perhaps, she was a fair folk, her wrist was supple and as white as the snow. However, it could also be due to her unhealed injuries. Zhou placed 2 fingers on her pulse. His primal qi flowed along her extraordinary 8 meridians and into her sea of qi. His skillful and precise control over primal qi allowed him to easily examine the conditions of Yi Tianxin's body. Zhou could clearly sense some lingering effects from her battle with Lu Ge and his men. Her life aura was on the weak side, and she needed time to recover. Zhou removed his fingers from her wrist before he said, "You've lost much of your longevity. If you keep this up, it won't be any help to your cultivation. I'm already satisfied that I've reached the 8-leaf stage." Yi Tianxin had never expected she would become an 8-leaf cultivator in the first place. It was just her good fortune that she encountered Cheng Huang. Moreover, she did not think she was talented enough to continue improving past this stage. In this sense, her thinking slightly resembled Mingshi Yin's. Being an 8-leaf cultivator was powerful enough for them, and they would still command respect. There was no real reason for her to risk everything for the 9-leaf stage. Alas, the times were different now. Zhou spoke slowly, "There's going to be a huge change under the heavens. I'm afraid being an 8-leaf cultivator is no longer enough. What do you mean, master? Yi Tianxin asked in confusion. How much do you know about Jiang Wenxiu? Lu Zhou asked in return. When I was in the divine capital, I heard senior sister Zhao Yu mention him. Master, are you saying the disaster is real, and the Red Lotus domain will invade Great Yen? Is that the great change you're talking about? Yi Tianxin asked. Lu Zhou merely nodded. He slowly rose to his feet with his hands on his back and said, although Yu Zhenghai and Yu Shongrong have returned to the evil sky pavilion, they're arrogant, stubborn, and unyielding. Apart from them, among the other disciples, you're the only one who has reached the 8-leaf stage first. I've already preached to the world. I'm sure there will be more 9-leaf cultivators in Great Yen before long. If I'm not here, who's going to support the evil sky pavilion? Yi Tianxin looked up at her master in shock. She was slightly surprised by the amount of hope her master placed in her. Lu Zhou continued to say, since you're at the 8-leaf stage, you should seize the opportunity. Understood. Yi Tianxin bowed. Lu Zhou turned around and faced Yi Tianxin as he said, you've mastered the blue waves technique. When you're highly familiar with it, it may sometimes be as lofty as a mountain of ice or like a sea of boiling water. It may change erratically or be as calm as a mirror. It's an extremely profound cultivation method. You'll understand the meaning of a book when you read it 100 times. From this day on, you are to repeatedly cultivate this method. Don't slack off. Understood. Ding. Taught Yi Tianxin. Reward, 1,000 merit points. Lu Zhou was slightly surprised when he received this notification. It was a rather huge reward. He merely intended to advise her to fulfill his responsibility as her master, to enlighten her, and also to strengthen the evil sky pavilion. With this, in a way, he was also improving his strength. Don't move. Lu Zhou flipped his palm, and a blue lotus appeared. This was the extraordinary power he accumulated after meditating for half a day. Everything was contained in this palm. The blue lotus descended, its power was focused on Yi Tianxin. When it bloomed, Yi Tianxin jerked and rose to her feet. She raised her hands and looked at her body in disbelief. The blue lotus seemed like her lotus at this moment. Its energy nourished her extraordinary 8 meridians, and she could feel her injuries were further healed. Apart from that, her sea of qi was flowing smoother than before as well. Soon after, the blue energy disappeared. Yi Tianxin bowed and said in a voice brimming with gratitude, "Thank you, master." Lu Zhou glanced at her and extended his hand. The amorous hoop. Yi Tianxin did not hesitate. She brought the amorous hoop out and presented it with both hands to her master. Lu Zhou waved his hand and said, "I'm your master, and it's my responsibility to teach you and make sure you're safe. That will be all." When Yi Tianxin heard this, she was shocked. She did not leave immediately. Instead, she raised her arms and prostrated herself in a sincere act of worship. "I'll fulfill my promise to you, master." After that, Yi Tianxin stood up respectfully and retreated from the room. Lu Zhou slowly walked to the side of the rush cushion and sat down before picking up the amorous hoop. He remembered when he first recruited Yi Tianxin as his disciple. She was a smart and well-behaved child. It was also for those reasons that he had given her the amorous hoop. Lu Zhou flipped his right hand, and a shining stone appeared. When the shining stone burst into flames, he tossed the amorous hoop into the fire. Based on his previous experience, Lu Zhou was familiar with the process, so he did not pay too much attention to it. At this moment, he was looking at the system dashboard before checking the prices of the item cards. Just as he had expected, the prices increased after he reached the 9-leaf stage. The Deadly Strike card and Impeccable card were now sold at 15,000 merit points each. Even the cheapest item card, the Thunderblast card, was sold at 5,000 merit points each. Fortunately, he had the extraordinary power and the 9-leaf cultivation base. He was relying less on the item cards now. It would be enough just to have a few on hand. Time passed by in just a blink of an eye. Early the next morning, Lu Zhou heard some creaking noise, so he opened his eyes and looked at the source of the noise. The amorous hoop was now completely red after being burned. Then, it swiftly reverted to its original appearance. A gleam of light flowed through the hoop's blade as well. With this, the shining stone's energy was exhausted. Ding! Obtained Desolate Grade Amorous Hoop. Reward, 1000 merit points. Owner, Yi Tianqin. Refinement needed before use. Zhou waved his hand. The amorous hoop flew into his hand. Is anyone there? Your orders, Pavilion Master? Give the amorous hoop to Yi Tianqin. He pushed his palm forward, and a surge of energy opened the door. The amorous hoop flew out and hovered before the door. The female cultivator was from the derived Moon Palace and a former subordinate of Yi Tianqin. Therefore, she recognized the weapon at once. However, she felt that the weapon had changed even though she could not tell what was different. She felt her heart moved as she hastily stepped forward to take the amorous hoop. Then, she bowed and said, "Understood." The female cultivator left the eastern pavilion and made her way to the southern pavilion. Shortly after, she was outside Yi Tianqin's room. She bowed before she said, "Palace Master, your weapon." There was no immediate reply. After a while, the door creaked as Yi Tianqin opened the door. She emerged from the room and said, "From now on, you're forbidden from addressing me as Palace Master from now on. I don't care even if you are my comrade." Yes. We're all sisters, and I know why you're doing this. However, I'm now a disciple of the Evil Sky Pavilion. Just forget everything about the derived Moon Palace, understand? Yes. Yi Tianqin looked at the amorous hoop. As soon as her eyes landed on it, her eyes flashed. My amorous hoop.